Previously on Forbidden Lands. This is the live episode, so we're doing this reporting from the beach in the Lesser Carolinas. Basically going to go ahead and recap what happened last week on Forbidden Lands, and then do absolutely no video editing whatsoever because, first off, I am too soaked with gin to worry about that, as well as I'm on vacation, so I'm not going to put any effort into this whatsoever, which is great for me. Probably not for you, the listener, and or the attempted viewer. But anyway, so back to what happened last week on the Forbidden Lands. First off, in camp outside of the Hollows, Throkar read a book. He read his tome. He learned more about what was happening in terms of the concerning relationship with Zytera that perhaps the Rust Brotherhood or German had. And while that was happening, Rolt, the delightful goblin with a heart of gold, who loves to do anything that benefits him, actually went out and killed a boar and got several meats, which interestingly take up kind of a bizarre slot in the inventory of the player for the Forbidden Lands. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the fact that he had a successful kill, which was awesome, and Throkar had a successful read, because he is in fact literate, unlike many members of the party, which is great. And then let's see here. What else do my notes say? Also, German, the newly entered half-elf, had a little herb gathering session, so he could kind of boost his poisons. And there was some concern there that perhaps Rolt was skeptical as to perhaps whether or not German was going to go ahead and poison the group, because he was kind of, involuntarily entered into joinder with the group, which could be concerning if you care about your own personal liberties and your own personal ability to do whatever you want to do. German kind of got essentially kidnapped and then extraordinarily renditioned from the Hollows. So there is probably some level of potential interest for him to exact some kind of revenge on this ragtag band of merry marauders. So let's see, what else? Essentially, the gang worked with Nervea, and Nervea said, hey, this is where Verelda is located. She's located in the Shroud, the very deep and thick forest, reminiscent of Davokar, for those of you viewers and listeners who also tune into our Simba Room podcast weekly that does not yet exist. It's a very thick forest, and it holds many secrets and many potential threats to our player characters. But essentially, they have to go into the Shroud to escort Nervea, the Jane Seymour character, to Verelda. And ultimately, after some discussion amongst the group as to who is going to lead, they end up deciding to go ahead and forge into the Shroud. And the fording into the Shroud involves crossing a river. And this is a very precipitous and violent river, which is stocked heavily with danger. And ultimately, everyone manages to cross safely with the exception of Nervea, and almost the entire party decides not to essentially give a shit about Nervea, despite the fact that's the reason why they are out of the Hollows into the wilds. And so German is the only individual who elects to immediately, at terrible, perilous risk to himself to jump into this river and to rescue Nervea. And so he does, and she kind of asks him, hey, why did you rescue me? Of all the people, I understand I'm James Seymour, but why would you rescue me? And he says, because you're somebody who can help me, and you're somebody who I believe has value. And she kind of plays it off because he doesn't roll as well as he could have. But let's just say it's a major move for Gearman. I mean, it shows some character, and I think everyone was impressed with that Riverine rescue mission that Gearman pulled off. It was legitimate. So, major props to Gearman. Deathwing, awesome. Serious integrity move. I think everybody kind of is impressed that, you ford the river like Oregon Trail, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong, and the first dude to jump in is the guy who has the least ties to the group. That says something. Integrity move. Massive props, massive respect there. So we're already to 6 minutes, and we haven't even finished a third of this podcast. That's concerning. But luckily, this podcast is brought to you by Beef Eater 24, which is a London dry gin that involves some botanicals that were discovered by the creator in Japan, as well as simply lemonade with raspberry, because you wouldn't want to have just simple lemonade. You'd want to have another delightful fruit involved with it. It's 11% juice blend. I don't know what the other 89% is, but it's tasty as fuck. So go ahead and go to your local supermarket, pick that up, drink it. It's delightful. So after they rescue Nervea, after Gearman rescues Nervea, they set up camp. And they leave that to Rolt, because Rolt is a goblin who, at this point, only goblins have really set up camp, which leads me to wonder, is there some kind of caste system involving goblins, involving whether or not goblins are considered to be lesser people than other races in the Forbidden Lands? I don't know. But it's definitely something that, is kind of called to mind because Srodid set up the camp previously, and some people, probably some viewers, are wondering, where is Srodid at this point? He was off hunting from the original camp that was set up, so he's not yet entered back into. This is just a group of Venaris, Rolt, Throkar, Gearman, and Nervea that are currently venturing into the Shrouds. Srodid is kind of off doing his own thing right now. So anyway, next, after the camp is set up, the characters go to sleep and take watch respectively, just in order to make sure that the camp is safe and secure, because this is happening in the Shroud, which is a dangerous area of the forest. Anywhere that's not a city in the Forbidden Lands is just tumultuous in terms of potential enemies and potential concern and pitfalls that could befall the travelers and the adventurers. So the player characters are very careful to make sure that they take sleep and take watch in shifts. Throkar maintains watch while other players take some sleep. Venaris also maintaining watch, just to make sure they're doubled up on their guard and they're making sure all the fronts are successfully defended. During this rest, Gearman has a terrifying sleep. He has a terrifying dream, a nightmare, if you will. And this nightmare ends up leading to him having the revelation, him having the potential recollection, if not a dream recollection, a real recollection, of being at the Haggler's house and having witnessed the absolute monstrosity, Zytera, the melding of Zygofer and his daughter into a single dual humanoid body with arachnid bottom, Zytera, demon, having their 300th birthday, their tricentennial, if you will, in Haggler's house, and requiring blood sacrifice to do so. So no piñatas at this birthday, but in fact, a terrible, horrible eating and filleting of humans and other races live and consumed by the arachnoid body, which is just absolutely harrowing, disgusting. If you heard the recap given by Vale in such lurid detail, it is absolutely disgusting, enough to really make your stomach turn. But that is the demon known as Zytera. So to really understand pure evil, you have to get into that sickening level of detail, which Vale is so brutally capable of doing. It's incredible. And so after that, German woke up in fear that Zytera would eat him next, and he began to hallucinate terrifying spider creatures. Actually, just spiders. Not spider creatures, but just spiders coming after him in the camp. And so German made an exit. He ran off into the thicket of the shroud, into the permafog that befalls the shroud and makes movement difficult, makes vision and perception almost impossible. German tore off into that completely obscured fog and completely impossible to follow forest. And Throkar saw this, attempted to follow, but was unable to, possibly because he is in fact so short and his legs so stumpy that he cannot properly and capably give chase. And he resigned to go ahead and secure the camp for the betterment of the majority in the camp, but realized that, hey, this guy who has just witnessed us commit murder in a local nearby town has run off. So this is concerning. And he took these concerns back to Venaris, our Gimp city guard, who is now both without a source of income as city guard and without a source of alcohol, being the Three Skulls Tavern. And Venaris then came back and said, hey, what were the motives of this character that ran off into nowhere for no reason? Why did he do this? And Throkar said, I don't know. I was guarding and I saw him run away. And Venaris said, are you sure? Is that really why he ran away? And Throkar said, literally, like I just said, I don't know. But he did. So, let's hold the phone here. And let's not worry about why he did it. Let's assume, okay, hey, this guy who knows we committed murder just ran away. I don't know why, but logic dictates that perhaps he did because he's in fact going to turn us in. So this could end up poorly for us. We should probably wait until morning because we can't see anything in this delightful permafrog. Let's go ahead and let's wait and let's check it out in the morning when we have some visibility, some light, maybe a little bit of chance of finding this guy. And Venaris says, yeah, that okay. That seems legit. After you've made your point several times, I'm going to go ahead and agree with that. And so they resign. Hey, this is very concerning. This is anxiety. Throkar and Venaris probably not going to have a great night of sleep because they are dealing with this terrifying concern that the one witness that they know of. We also have Rold who has seen this, but the one witness they know of, German, the man who they almost framed for this homicide, has run off. And so while he's run off, he actually meets another dwarf in the shroud. And this dwarf's name, I believe, is Andrid. I was going to consult the Game Master Guide to figure out exactly what the pronunciation of his name was, but I didn't. It's in my book bag. It came down on the flight with me, but I have absolutely no idea what the fuck this dwarf's name is. I think it's Andrid. If it's not, we'll go ahead and say it's Eric Andre. I don't have any idea. Maybe he's played by Eric Andre. He's a very persnickety dwarf who has some views that personally I don't agree with. My player character doesn't agree with. Throkar does not believe. But anyway, Andrid believes that Huge is a false god. He believes he's a false idol. But at the same time, he believes that Huge allowed for his family to die in the mines. So he gives a lot of credence to Huge being an existent god because Huge evidently willed his family to die in the mines, but at the same time does not give any venerance to Huge. So really the question as to whether or not we can deal with Andrid as a legitimate source of information, is answered immediately in the terms of the fact that he does not actually legitimize his argument in any way, shape, or form, because he believes that Huge does not have any power, but yet has enough power to kill his family. So I just want to say, as a sidebar, it's bullshit. So don't listen to Andred. Huge is the real god. He is the most venerable god. And he is the god that really everyone should be paying attention to. But I understand some other races have some other ideas about some religion, and that's fine. You can have some false idols. That's cool. But also, if you understand that Huge is the best god, Throkkar would greatly appreciate that. So just keep that in mind. Andred is also a sky dwarf. He is an individual who operates a balloon driven airship that is apparently kind of skeevy. You know, what is a dwarf doing in the sky is really a question that I would love to posit and to put forth, because there's some question. You know, this is a dwarf. Dwarves are traditionally found in the earth because they're trying to build the earth out to Huge's hearth, out to the sun, which is a great and noble goal, whereas this individual, this motherfucker, has decided to take to the skies, which is the last place a dwarf should be. You know, they're short for a reason. That's because they're grounded, they're based on earth, and not, you know, flying around, flitting about in the sky. But apparently, for some unknown reason, Andred has decided he's better than the entire pantheon of just Huge, and he's going to go ahead and take to the sky, and he's going to do some skeevy, questionable things. So he has an airship. That should be their first warning. I mean, much like as how bad as Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow did with George Clooney and Angelina Jolie, I would also say that the movie of Andred would suck just as bad, because no one likes airships, no one likes dwarves in the sky. Everyone likes dwarves that do their friggin' jobs. Okay, and Throated is an example of that. For some reason, all the non-player characters that are dwarves in this game resent Huge, which I think is a commentary to show exactly how difficult but also rewarding a veneration of Huge is in terms of religious beliefs, because it's kind of questionable. I mean, you got Yawim, you've got Andred. It's like all these dwarves are just not happy about it. Maybe it's just because they can't reach the top shelf at the supermarket. I don't really know why they're so pissed off. But for some reason they're pissed off, and the bottom line is they shouldn't be, because Huge is going to take care of them if only they believe, if only they stop their sacrilege, if only they stop trying to fly. You know, I'm not meant to fly. I'm not that naive. I think that's James Blunt. I don't know for sure. But that is a great point in terms of the dwarven anatomy. You know, dwarves are not meant to fly. They're meant to stay on or within the earth. And I think that the dwarves of Belrand, the dwarves of the Merimanian Tribunal, and the dwarves of Stone Garden would all agree with me when I say, just stay on the ground. There's nothing wrong with the ground. Ground is, in fact, very prestigious, very great. Don't fly. But Andred, he's got an interesting thing. He's got a complex. He's going to go ahead and he's going to fly around. He's going to just have a balloon, because that's just a, gay old time to him. I don't know what Andred's motivations are at this point. But let's just say, should be skeptical, because very short man in a sky blimp. Kind of odd. Wouldn't you agree? I would agree. But of course, I'm also the one positing this viewpoint, so naturally I would agree. So, we've already hit 19 minutes, which is disgusting. No one's going to listen this far in, which is fine. I don't expect you to. But anyway, so we find out that Andred hates Huge. We find out that no one should trust in Sky Dwarves. And then Gearman tries to help him, and he has this interesting back and forth with Andred, where Andred thinks that, all of Gearman's best friends might be spiders. They might not be spiders. We don't know. But maybe they're Gearman's best friends. Maybe Gearman can help him get this sky balloon back operational, and to continue Andred's suspicious plot. I'm going to really regret this if I find out his name's not Andred. I've recorded enough that I'm going to be very upset if his name's not in fact pronounced that way. But anyway, so the episode kind of ends where the team is still at camp. Gearman has escaped, Andrew is now a player, or not a player, but a role that is in fact kind of entered into the arena of potential influence, and that the team is still moving to Verelda. But before they end, they find out that that Throated actually comes back in a tumultuous and incredible hunting trip that spans the entire distance with which the group traveled in a beeline towards the Shroud. Throated actually comes back camp to camp. And in the meantime, he has double suplexed, murdered a fox with his bare hands. And when I say it's fucked up, I don't think that you quite understand the concept of a small goblin suplexing a fox with his bare hands, murdering him, and then after the fox is dead, ripping out its claws, its teeth, any useful spell-making ingredients. Throated does this because Throated's a savage. He might be 80 years old. He might be a goblin. He might not be able to see great. He might be not able to move great. He might only be motivated by tea. But this dude's a cold-hearted murderer. Okay, he's suspect number one in terms of homicide, because this dude, if you don't give him his tea, he will take away your breath. I'm just throwing that out there. I would not cross Throated if I were in a dark alley with him. But so Throated murders in brutal fashion this fox without any kind of ranged weapon, without any kind of anything that you typically would need in order to spring a trap or otherwise murder an animal in the forest for its requisite droppable goods, such as pelts or claws or fangs. He does it with his bare hands, and he takes a pelt and he moves the fuck on with his life, because Throated does not have time to waste in his adventures from tea party to tea party. So it's really just one of those things where we're already at 22 minutes. This is horrifying. I hope that you guys choose to click around in this, because if you don't, you're going to listen to a lot of dead air where there's not a lot of great humor. But anyway, Throated reunites with the group in a miraculous fashion. It's great that he was in fact hunting on the exact same course that the party was going. So now he's back with the group, and things draw to a close. So we're left to try and figure out what happens next. Will German be able to successfully recuperate Andred's airship back into the sky, or will he be forced to introduce the party if they find him, and in fact not an elf, hold the phone, a dwarf who believes in huge, a dwarf who actually does his fucking job and believes in huge. I don't know. It's possible that he might. It's possible that German may have to rely on a dwarf who believes in huge to get a dwarf who spites huge back into the sky, back operational. I don't know. It might be worth it. It might not be worth it. We don't know yet. But we will find that out on Thursday night's episode of this show. Will Rolt beat up anyone over Eponia in next week's episode? I don't know. He's very defensive over Eponia. There were, in fact, some questions as to Rolt's relationship with Eponia that were ventured forth this last episode. People didn't think I was going to address it in this podcast, but I in fact will, because Rolt and Eponia are very close. Close enough that I think when you search Rolt Eponia on Google Images, it comes up with enough stuff that doesn't show up when Google Safe Search is on, that it makes one wonder, is the Rolt-Eponia relationship more than camaraderie? Is it, in fact, potentially sexual? We don't know. As a respectable or potentially self-respectable goblin, Rolt identifies that he is in fact not in a sexual relationship with his horse, Epona. But I think there's a lot of question to that. I think a lot of people are wondering, a lot of viewers at home are questioning, hang on, the forums over at forbiddenlandz.com, check them out if you have not yet, are abuzz with thought that perhaps Rule 34 exists of Rolt and Epona. I don't know. I would say Google it, but I won't say Google it because that's going to be something that you're not going to want to do. That's NSFW, not safe for work. Don't Google it. Anyway, so that's where Rolt's at. Will Venaris finally, will he find some kind of naturally fermented fruit in the forest that will enable him to satiate his desire for intoxication? Because I don't think that he packed any brew. I don't think he packed any alcohol. So he's going to end up with withdrawals while we're headed for Verelda that is going to kind of bring in an interesting mechanic. I don't know what's going to happen. Will he have those flashbacks that kind of disable him from being able to talk? I don't know. It might happen. But ultimately, I hope that Venaris is able to get to Verelda without experiencing those debilitating flashbacks, as well as the debilitating inability to be inebriated, which he is so often interested in doing to escape the demons that have previously plagued him. As far as Throkar goes, what is he up to these days? Throkar has done some reading, which is great. Throkar's the lore warden of the group. He's also one of the only literate characters that is in the group. I think that Jerman is also capable of reading. However, Throkar is the original literary master, the warden of lore, the lore warden. And so he's, kind of learning more. He's a little bit skeptical of this new character, Jerman, having entered into the party and to what role he plays with these nemesis that have been laid out before the group. And so he's very skeptical. And I should shudder to think what would happen if Throkar met Andrid, two dwarves with incredibly violently different perspectives on Huge and perspectives on the Dwarven Pantheon. So that'll be very interesting to see what happens next. I'm just grabbing a little more gin there. Who next? What else? Srodid has made threats previously as to whether or not he is going to attempt to murder Epona. So there is a kind of Gabo on Gabo violence situation brewing here as to whether or not Srodid will commit the ultimate execution of Epona and successfully manage to do that while Rolt is unable to defend the situation. But we'll see what happens. That's something that could come up on this next episode. And as far as Vale goes, what would Vale be doing during this next episode? I think the biggest question is, will Vale introduce a fucking dwarf character that is in fact not anathema to the Dwarven Pantheon? It's kind of a little bit sickening that Vale would suggest that all non-player Dwarven characters, with the exception of Woldreg and the now dead Koldan, are against Huge. That's disgusting to me. And as much as I respect Vale's input and respect Vale's abilities as a dungeon master, he is absolutely incredible. I recommend any and all of you out there, listeners, who could potentially get in on a game with Vale, you owe it to yourself to work on that and to obtain that if you can. However, Vale also enjoys creating dissension amongst the ranks and really ruining the accuracy and ruining the cohesion of the Dwarven Pantheon by introducing all these non-player character dwarves that hate the Dwarven Pantheon, hate Huge for some indescribable reason. Really, the best god I don't know anybody on Earth who could possibly look at Rust and be like, yep, that makes sense. He's got an arachnid body and incestuously bonded with his daughter. That's great. I love that. That's cooler than this dude who wants to build Earth out a lot. I mean, that's huge. Big thing is like, let's build Earth a lot. Whereas Zygofer and Zytera are like, hey, let's just incestuously fuse to one another on top of an arachnid. No one wants that. I mean, no one is interested in that kind of weirdness. That's horrifying. So you've got, Rust and Hemi as these, incestuous, husband-wife team of really kind of shit-tier gods that I wouldn't trust. So I'm urging all the viewers out there, if you're on ForbiddenLandZ.com message boards, go ahead and post a poll or something about whether or not you believe in Hemi and Rust, or if you believe in Whale, which is what Android believes in, or if you believe in Huge, which is really the best god. There's not too much about it. It's just basically like, an ongoing game of, Tetris to try and build it up as much as you possibly fucking can until you get to the sky hearth of the sun. That's a great objective. No one else is interested in any kind of homicide or murder or anything else like that, whereas all the other gods, the Ravens sisters, the Rust brothers, everybody else is believing in some kind of tumultuous violence, whereas I am thinking that Huge is the god of peace. And so pretty much, we'll go ahead and leave it there, and we're going to find out next time on Forbidden Land Z what happens. I'm interested. I'm heavily soaked with Beefeater 24. Delightful gin. Check it out. Also check out Rube 101 gin while you're at it. But enough endorsements from me. The bottom line is we've hit 32 minutes. So if you're still listening, basically you're a fucking idiot, because this is a very long podcast. There's probably about 30 seconds of this entire podcast that are humorous, and the remainder of it is all set to either the Powderpuff Girls or the Dungeons & Dragons animated series. Whatever I can download illegally first is what this is going to be downloaded to. So enjoy that. And thank you very much for watching. I apologize for this. It will probably happen again. I would tell you it won't happen again, but it will happen again. So this is Spenny signing off. Thank you for watching previously on Forbidden Lands. Next time on Forbidden Lands Z.